सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु, सहनौ भुनक्तु, सह वीर्यं करवावहै, तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सुखं नित्यं स्वप्रकाशं व्यापकं नामरूपयोः अधिष्ठानं बुद्ध्यबोध्यं बुद्धिर्दृग्यत्तु निर्मलम् अपारं सर्ववेदान्तवेद्यं प्रत्यक्परं महः तदेवाहं न मत्तोऽन्यदिति मे निश्चिता मतिः।
Regarding the second type of causal factor for any adhyasa, that is Prameya Rupa Adhyasa. Prameya dosha in the form of Sadrishyam. There, the Siddhanti gives the answer that as a matter of rule, this Prameya dosha is not necessary for all the adhyasa. And for that, the Siddhanti gave the example of the adhyasa of jati on the self. And then, having thought that this example may be difficult, the Siddhanti gave the second example, that is the adhyasa of yellowness on the conch. And regarding that, certain akshepa samadhanani are there which are given by the Tippanika. In the first akshepa, the second tippani on page 57, tippani number 2, the first akshepa which the Purvapakshi raised was that this yellowness is not a adhyasa. The yellow color from the eyes of the person who is having some eye defect is really anointed on the conch, and thereby there is yellowness on the conch. To that the Siddhanti said that if that is so, then everybody should see the yellowness on the conch, but that is not so. So when this is said, then the Purvapakshi again raises the doubt, and he gives a possibility about how the yellowness, even though being the real color, can be only seen by the person who is having eye disease. So he says, and he gives an example for it. He said, just as a bird who is flying goes up in the sky, and that bird is the object of the function of the eyes of whichever person.
Object
of the function of the eyes.
Okay, it is another way of saying you have to. The object, the bird is flying up from the place which is associated with the eye. Practically what you said is okay.
So that bird is going up from that place which is associated with the function of the eye of whichever person. Let us say Devadatta. So Devadatta is seeing the place from where the bird is going upward. Then the Purvapakshi says, for that person alone, means for Devadatta alone, who is seeing the bird for a very long time, the bird would be seen having reached a high distance. Okay? Even when the bird will reach a very high height, means high altitude.
Great height.
Yes.
High height. Great height.
Very great altitude. Then the Devadatta alone will be able to see that bird and not anybody else. So, and this is the example. Similarly, the person who is having this eye defect and the color of the conch is due to the color in the eyes of this person, for that person alone, later the this yellowness on the conch will be available, means will be experienced, and not for anybody else. So by this, what the Purva Pakshi is trying to say is that what the Siddhanti said as that everybody is not seeing yellowness, so yellowness is not the real color and it is superimposed. That particular point, the Purva Pakshi is trying to give a reason for it. And when this is told, then the Siddhanti says that just as the bird who is flying in the sky and having gone upward from the place which is the object of the eye for whichever person, yes, for Devadatta for example, then that bird would be seen by other person also, having shown that bird by pointing the finger. So when the bird has gone up, then if Devadatta points a finger to some other person, let's say Yajnadatta, and shows this is the bird, then even Yajnadatta will be able to see that bird. Whereas that does not happen in case of this yellowness on the conch. Even after showing the yellowness having pointed the finger. If a person who is having this eye disease points the finger and says that yellow conch, then the person without eye disease will not see the yellowness on the conch. Tasmat, therefore, the yellow color on the conch is adhyastaha, is superimposed alone. And is definitely superimposed. And now, in the next sentence, the Tippanikara shows what is the reason for the third example which is given. So he said, in this manner, the superimposition of yellowness on the conch, even though it is there without there being similarity between the conch and the yellowness, still that example is established only after Shanka Samadhanam, means objections and their resolutions. Therefore, the Granthakara shows the example which is nirvivada, which is without any contradiction. And what is that example? That in the Goda, in the jaggery, there is
Jaggery,
in the jaggery there is superimposition of bitterness.
Correct.
So thus we saw that regarding two causal factors of adhyasa, which the Purva Pakshi had said that are necessary, the Siddhanti gave the answer. Regarding the first, the Siddhanti refined the causal factor. And regarding the second, the Siddhanti said that it is not necessary all the time. Now, the third causal factor is taken up and answered by the Siddhanti. In the 95th avarta it is said, Pramatru doshaha api na avasyam adhyasa hetuhu. Even the defect of the pramata, of the knower, is not the cause of superimposition necessarily. And by necessarily, what we mean is that in some cases it may be adhyasa hetu, but it is not a rule that in every case it is a adhyasa hetu. So it is said, Pramaduhu lobha bhayadi doshaha na adhyasa hetavaha. And here we add avasyam. The defects in the form of this lobha, greed, bhaya, fear, etc., jealousy on the part of pramata are not the causes of superimposition. Why? But the reason is given. Lobhadi shunya viraktanam api shuktikadau rajatadyadhyasa darshanat. Because of the observation of superimposition of silver, etc., on the shell, etc. for whom? Even for the people who are dispassionate and who are free from this greed, etc. So by this, what the Siddhanti is saying is that as per the Purva Pakshi, this Lobhadi are necessary as a defect in the Pramata for Adhyasa. But we are seeing the place where even when the Pramata does not have Lobhadi, but that Pramata does have some Adhyasa. And how this Lobhadi, Shunya, Viraktana, Vishuktikado, etc. becomes the reason for that, the Siddhanti says, Parapaksharitya dosharupa hetva bhavat na adhyasah jayeta. And we add kintu jayate eva. As per the view of the opponent, means the Purva Pakshi, without or when there, because of the absence of the causes in the form of dosha, the adhyasa, superimposition, would not be born. But we see that it is born. Therefore means, since there is a Vyatireka Vyabhichara, means we do see that there is discontinuity of the Vyatireka Vyapti, that if Adhyasa Hetu is not there, then Adhyasa is not there. Means Pramatru Dosha is not there, then Adhyasa is not there. This Vyapti is negated. Therefore, na Pramatru Doshaha Adhyasa Hetuhu. Therefore, the defect in or obtaining in the Pramata is not the Adhyasa Hetuhu. And we add here Avashyam, means always. Regarding three causal factors, the answer was given by the Siddhartha. And now the fourth causal factor is answered. And it is said, Pramana doshaha api na avashyam adhyasa hetuhu. It is said, even the defect in the pramanam, in the basis of knowledge or the means of knowledge, is not adhyasa hetuhu, avashyam, necessarily. And that is explained. Pramana doshaha api na adhyasa hetuhu tathahi. The explanation follows. Sarvesham eva nirupe akashe nailyam indranila katahara karaha indranila kataha karavacha vati. The Siddhanta is giving an example of where without Pramana dosha, even Adhyasa is there. So first he says that for all the people, there is appearance of what? Nailyam, blueness. And then Indranila Kataha Karaha, the shape of Indranila, blue sapphire, and of the cauldron, where Nirupe Akashe, in the space which is free from color and which is free from form. So what is said here? That in the space which is free from color, there is appearance of blue color. And in the space which is free from shape, there is appearance of the shape such as blue sapphire or cauldron. Tataha sarvesham akashe samataya nailyadhyadhyasasya jayamanatvat sarvesham नेत्रेन्द्रिय प्रमाणे पित्तादि दोष सद्भाव कल्पना वाच्या ततः. Therefore means based on the view of the Purva Pakshi, therefore because of the birth of the superimposition of blueness etc. on the space for all the people uniformly, for all the people, the imagination of or the inference of the presence of the defect such as acidity etc. in the pramanam means the means of knowledge, that is netrendriya, means the eye should be understood,
Yeah, should be told. Vachya. No?
should be told. Sa cha na anjasi. And that imagination or inference is not realistic. Means we cannot say that everybody is having defects in their eyes because everybody is seeing this blueness. Tasmat, therefore, means since we are seeing this vyatireka vyabhichara, therefore, pramana dosha api na adhyasa hetuhu. The defect obtaining in the pramana or the defect in the pramana also is not adhyasa hetuhu. And now, the Granthakara is making a note. Like this example of Nailyadi Adhyasa on Akasha, that example itself can be used to show that there is dosha traya abhavaha
In
with respect to this Adhyasa. So it is said, Akashe Nailyadi Adhyasa Vishaye na kevalam pramana dosha bhavaha kintu sarva dosha bhavaha api. So with regard to the superimposition of blueness, etc. in the space, not only there is absence of pramana dosha, but there is also absence of all the dosha. And here by sarva dosha, with prameya rupa dosha and
Prameya Rupadi.
prameya dosha and pramatru dosha are included. And that the Granthakara himself clarifies in the next sentence. सादृश्य भावः सादृश्या भावः सादृश्या भावः प्रमातृ दोष भावः च तत्र सिद्धः एव. And tatra means with regard to this superimposition of Nailyadi on Akasha, even the sadrushya abhavaha, the absence of similarity, and pramatru dosha abhavaha, the absence of pramatru dosha is definitely established. And how is sadrushya abhavaha established? There is no similarity between this colorless akasha and the blue color because they are opposite in nature. And there is, and even this pramatru dosha is abhava is established. How? We cannot say that because somebody is having some dosha in the form of raga for blue color, he is seeing blue color. Why? Because another person may not be having raga. In fact, he may be having dvesha for blue color, but still he will see the sky to be blue only. So we cannot establish any dosha in the pramata also. And now, having given the example of Akasha, the Granthakara is extending it to the Dashtanta. Yatha sakala dosha bhave api akashe naiyadyadhyasah jayate tatha atmani api bandhadyasah dosham vina eva jayate. Just as the superimposition of this blueness etc. on the sky is on the space is born even in the absence of all the defects, means all the three defects. Similarly, the superimposition of bondage, means anatma, on the self is also born without the defects, without these three defects indeed. Tasmat means since without defects also the adhyasa is born, therefore dosha bhavat bandha adhyasa rupah na bhavati iti iyam shanka na yukta. Therefore, this particular doubt is improper. And what is the doubt? The doubt or the objection that without, because of the absence of defects, the bondage is not in the form of adhyasa. This type of doubt or objection is improper. Yataha sarva dosha virahe sati api akashe नैल्याद्यध्यासः जायते सकलपुरुषाणां तस्मात् दोषः न अध्यास हेतुः. Since the superimposition of blueness etc. is born on the space which is free from or devoid of all the defects. For all the people this superimposition is born, therefore the defects means the three defects are not adhyasa hetuhu. And we add here avasyam na adhyasa hetuhu. And now the Granthakara concludes the topic of this avarta. पित्तादि दोष शून्य नेत्रस्य अपि आकाशे इंद्रनीलकटाहाद्याकारः भासते. तस्मात् प्रमाणदोषः न अध्यास हेतुः. Even for the person who is having the eyes which are devoid of the defects such as acidity etc., the shape in the form of blue sapphire or cauldron etc. are appearing or appears in the space. Therefore, pramana dosha is not adhyasa hetuhu. And here we also saw that this pittadi dosha shunya netrasya can also refer to the netra. Means for the eyes which are free from the defects such as acidity etc. And now that Siddhanti or the Granthakara is making a note. Itham doshaha na adhyasa hetuhu. In this manner, how it is shown that doshaha means all the three defects are not adhyasa hetuhu. Ataha bandhadhyase na doshapeksha asti. Therefore, with regard to the superimposition of bondage means anatma on atma, there is no expectation of these defects. Means even when these defects are not there, then also the superimposition of anatma on atma is tenable. And further, the Granthakara shows that in some other text there is some view which is accepted by the Acharya. It is said, Samkshepa Sharirake Bandhadhyasa Prastave Doshaha Api Karanattvena Uktaha. In this text called Samkshepa Shariraka, in the chapter on Bandhadhyasa, these defects also are told as the cause.
Prastava can be discussion also, topic or discussion.
So on the discussion on this Bandhadhyasa, the defects also are mentioned as the cause. And why then here it is not mentioned? Grantha Vistara Bhayad Iha Na Iha Saha Nirupitaha. Out of fear of the concern of the expansion of the text, in this text, that particular dosha is not explained. Doshaha yadi adhyasa hetuhu bhavet tada tad vishesha vicharaha yujyeta. If this defect would be the adhyasa hetu, the cause of superimposition, then the specific analysis on that defect would be tenable, would be proper. Tadasambhavad eva na iha saha prapanchate. Because of the impossibility of that means of the defect being the adhyasa hetu, here in this text it is not explained, it is not elaborated. And here we also saw that if in Sankshepa Shariraka or the Sankshepa Shariraka Kara is accepted that dosha is adhyasa hetu, here it is said that dosha is avasyam na adhyasa hetu, then that seems to be a seeming contradiction. To that, our answer is that Samkshepa Shariraka also, when the Purva Pakshi says that Sadrishyam and etc., means Sadrishyam and other defects are necessary for any Adhyasa, then the Siddhanti there answered that such defects can be accepted with regard to this Bandhadhyasa on Atma, but not in primary sense, only in secondary sense. That means really the defect are not necessary. But if the Purvapakshi persists with that particular argument, then we do accept that. But not that the defects are really there, but the defects are as though present. Thus, there is no contradiction.
Okay. It's an elaborate summary. Good. So we are analyzing the mistake. Really speaking, what we are doing is analysis of a mistake. Adhyasa in a simple word is mistake. What is the mistake? That considering the self to be non-self and non-self to be the self. And Siddhanti, means Advaita Vedanti says that bondage is in the form of mistake only. And since it is in the form of a mistake, it can go away by knowledge. Because mistake is born of ignorance. And ignorance can go by knowledge. Therefore, mistake being based on ignorance can go by knowledge. And therefore we say, Dhanena Mokshaha. That is what the discussion is. In this regard, Purva Pakshi, the opponent, has raised the objection that for Adhyasa, any Adhyasa, 5 requirements are there. And all, if even one of them is not there, Adhyasa cannot happen. And your Siddhanti, none of them is available. If one is not available, then also it cannot happen. Like for making payasam, you require sugar, you require milk, you require elaichi, etc. And you don't have anything. So you want to make payasam. How possible? Not possible. So Adhyasa is not possible in your case. That Anatma being superimposed upon Atma is not possible because any one of these 5 is not available. If one is not available, Adhyasa cannot happen. In case, like there's a fully failed. So, so fully failed you are. Therefore, Adhyasa is not possible. To that particular objection, Siddhanti is giving the answer. He said, let us analyze the requirements which you have presented. First requirement is that samskara born of the experience of real thing is a requirement according to Purva Pakshi. Siddhanti refined that and says samskara born of the experience of real or unreal is good enough for Adhyasa. And that requirement we are fulfilling, we have. Because we have any ahankara, the Adhyasa is there. For that, the samskara born of the experience of previous ahankara, which was also Adhyasa, is there. Then second is prameya dosha. Prameya nishtha dosha. Prameya nishtha dosha is what? Sadrishyam. Similarity between Atma and Anatma should be there, not there. Siddhanti says Sadrishyam is not a mandatory requirement. Like in the form also they write that they put the mark, say this many items are mandatory. Some details not required. If you give, fine. If you don't give, fine. So based on the non-mandatory, the details not filled up, you cannot reject the form. So Siddhanta is telling that the similarity between Adhisthana and Adhyaropita is not a mandatory requirement. In some cases it is there, some cases it is not there. Alright. Then Siddhanta says, therefore in our case, even though it is not there, is the sadrishyam between Atma and Anatma is not there, still Adhyasa can happen. As it happens in so many things. He gave the example of Jati on Atma. He gave the example of the yellow color on the conch, that bitterness on the jaggery. So all possible. And finally he gave one big example, the blueness on the sky. So no similarity is still possible. Then he said Pramatri dosha also is not required. You cannot say that the person who is a knower, he should have some defect, then only can adhyasa. He may not have lobha, still he can have. Superimposition is possible. Therefore, Pramatru dosha not being there is not a defect because it's not a mandatory. Pramana dosha, the Pramana dosha also is not a mandatory because we see a situation in the case of superimposition of blueness on the sky, the person's eyes are not defective. Still adhyasa happens. Therefore, Pramana doshas also is not a mandatory requirement. So regarding this second, third and fourth, Siddhanti's answer is these three requirements which you have presented are not mandatory. Okay. And then he said, Itham doshaha na adhyasa hetuhu. So dosha is not adhyasa. Here dosha is a samanya. Pramatru dosha, pramana dosha and prameya dosha. Na adhyasa hetuhu. Ataha bandhadhyase na dosha peksha asti. Since dosha is not a mandatory requirement for adhyasa in general, therefore in specific case of bandhadhyasa, also dosha peksha is not there. If dosha is not there, therefore adhyasa, bandhadhyasa will not happen, you cannot say. Alright, then incidentally, this a discussion is there. That Sankshepa Sharirike bandhadhyasa discussion was there, and in that, dosha also was accepted as a karana. And that is not mentioned what all doshas are there. Sadrishyam, Samshatva, Bhaihyatva, all these doshas he has discussed, we have not discussed. Because it will be this elaboration of the text. And he said, one reason, two reasons he gives. Why not discussed here? Vistara, Grantha Vistara Bhayat. Out of concern for the expansion of the text. Even now itself so much expansion is there. If we further talk, what will happen? So we require a special, vehicle for carrying this text. Therefore, Vistara Bhayat Nayya. Second reason is given. He said, somebody may say, no, just because Grantha Vistara Bhaya is there, therefore you don't mention. That is not correct. You tell me. He says, Doshaha yadi adhyasa hetu bhavet. If dosha is really the cause for adhyasa, then we would have analyzed that also. If some item is really required, then we would have brought. Even though it is like becoming extra item, still we would have brought. Extra burden still would have brought. Not required. Therefore, tada sambhavat. Since this dosha is not a adhyasa hetu, doshasya adhyasa hetutva sambhavat na iha saprapanchate. So two reasons. Therefore, it is not elaborated. One is the unnecessary expansion of the text. Second is that particular dosha is not, these three doshas are not adhyasa hetu. Therefore, why should we discuss? Even after discussing, we would say that they are not the hetu. It is something like somebody with great struggle, he brings something and wife says, this is not required. So क्या हो जाएगा? तो इसलिए हमें सब समझ के हमें नहीं लाया. तदा संभवात न यस प्रपंचते. So these are the two reasons. Here, since we are taking this, doing the footnote also, and so itham doshaha na adhyasa hetu. Itham means in this manner, the Granthakara Nishchardasi said that dosha, this one of these three doshas is not adhyasa hetu, is not the cause for adhyasa. But this statement can mislead that no defect is required for adhyasa to happen. So Tippanikara, he says this is not the accurate statement. Presented doshas are not required, but some dosha is required. That is being explained in the Tippani footnote. Atra idam avagantavyam. Atra means in this regard. In this regard means doshaha na adhyasa hetuhu. With regard to this particular statement, idam, the following, this following, avagantavyam should be understood. Means this statement should be taken in proper manner, proper perspective. Don't become overboard. That's what he is saying in the footnote. Atra idam avagantavyam. What? Nikhila dosha samavaye sati eva adhyasah jayeta iti niyama bhave api yat kinchit doshe sati eva adhyasah sambhavati iti vaktavyam. He says, when nikhila dosha samavaye sati, when there is a combination of all the defects, then only adhyasah jayeta, adhyasa would be born. Iti niyama bhavepi, even though there is absence of such rule. So what has been said? That when all the three defects are combined, then only adhyasa will be born. That type of rule is not there. So Tippanikara also accept that all three doshas should be combined, then only this adhyasa would be there. That type of rule is not there. But yat kinchit doshe sati eva adhyasah sambhavati. But when some dosha is there, some defect is there, then only adhyasa is possible. Iti vaktavyam. In this manner it should be told. All three doshas are not required, but some dosha has to be there. Alright. Like for making fermentation, there may be various ways. So all the fermenting agents not required, but at least one should be there. So Siddha, this Tippanikara says, don't say that no dosha is required. All the three doshas not required, but some dosha has to be there for adhyasa to happen. Okay. Now he explains this. Yadapi akashe nailyadi adhyase na kopi dosha drishyate iti uktam. Yadapi has got the idea of yadyapi. Even though it has been told that akashe nailyadi adhyase, in the case of the superimposition of blueness on the sky, kopi dosha na drishyate, any defect is not seen. Iti uktam. In this manner it was told. Tatrapi, even with regard to that statement, ayam ashayaha, this is the intention. So when the Granthakara is saying that in the case of akashe nailyadi adhyasa, superimposition of blueness on the sky, there is no defect at all. When he says, what is the intention? How this statement should be understood? Tatrapi, with regard to the statement, ayam ashayaha. This is the intention. Alright, what the intention? Yasmin adhyase hetutvena sadrishyadi rupa vishesha doshaha kopi na apekshate tatrapi avidyakhyah doshaha apekshate eva. So, yasmin adhyase, in which adhyasa hetutvena, as the cause, sadrishyadi rupa vishesha doshaha, particular defect in the form of similarity, etc. Kopi, anyone, na apekshate, is not expected. With regard to any adhyasa, including akashe nailyadi adhyasa, sadrishyadi rupa vishesha dosha, means sadrish, particular dosha in the form of similarity has to be there. That is not the case. That is not expected. Sadrishyadi rupa vishesha dosha kopi na apekshate. Any particular defect in the form of similarity, etc. is not expected. That similarity has to be there, or pramata has to be some greed or fear, or prameya has to have this sadrishyam. All these things are not expected. Pramana should be having some defects. Any particular dosha should be there. That is not the case. So, na apekshate. Tatrapi, even in that situation, yasmin adhyase, in whichever adhyasa, in this case akashe nailyadi adhyasa, Particular dosha is not expected. But tatrapi, even in that case, yasmin and tatrapi, they are correlatives. In that adhyasa, also avidyakhya dosha apekshate eva. The defect in the form, defect called avidya is definitely expected. Without avidya, dosha cannot happen. Sorry, this adhyasa cannot happen. So, avidyakhya dosha apekshate eva. Why is it so? Sarvatha dosha bhave adhyasah eva na sambhave. In the situation of the absence of defect, in case of absence of defect in all aspects, means when there is complete absence of the defects, means there is no defect at all, then adhyasa eva na sambhave. Adhyasa itself will not be possible. Akashe nelyadi adhyase api vishesha dosha traya anapekshayamapi avidyakhya dosha apekshate eva. So, in the case of Nailyadi Adhyasa, Yasmin and Tatra, it was a general statement. Now he is coming to specific. In the case of the superimposition of the blueness on the space, Vishesha dosha traya anapekshayam api. Even though there is non-expectancy, absence of expectation of three particular defects, the pramatru dosha in the form of lobha, etc., pramana dosha, netra dosha, or the prameya dosha, sadrisha, even though these particular doshas are not expected, still avidyakhya dosha apekshate eva. The dosha, the defect called avidya, is expected alone, definitely expected. Why? If avidya is not there, ignorance is not there, then the adhyasa that space is blue will not happen. Means in the mind of the person, akasha will not be taken as blue. When he knows, he has got this knowledge that akasha is not blue. Akasha is colorless. When this understanding is there, then adhyasa in the form of the blueness will not happen. Even when he is seeing, he is negative. So in the form adhyasa means taking something to be really there, that will not happen. And if we take it in a deeper way, then without avidya, he will not have the status of being a seer of anything. And therefore avidya and avidya based, the seer status should be there to see even blueness of the sky. If the Purvapakshi further accept objects, no, still that person will have, even though he has knowledge that akasha is colorless, still he has got adhyasa. If he insists, really speaking, adhyasa is not there, only the appearance is there. It will be considered adhyasa a mistake when a person is giving reality to it. I know that this actor is Amitabh Bachchan, is not beggar, then I am not committing a mistake. Even though I am seeing him in a beggar costume, still it is not considered mistake. The mistake is then when we are considering it to be real. And therefore the person who knows that akasha is colorless, even though he is seeing it is colorful or blue, he will not have adhyasa. Otherwise Dani also will have adhyasa, no? So Dani is free from adhyasa, we say, because even though he is seeing Jagat, but he knows that Jagat is really not there, what is there is Brahman. And therefore, person who has got adhyasa, he has to have avidyakhya dosha. Here avidya can be taken in a relative sense, ignorance of the colorless space. Is it clear? So, adhyasa for nailyadi on akasha, avidyakhya dosha apekshate eva. Is it clear? Apekshate eva is expected, definitely expected. Yasya kasyapi doshalesasya api abhave adhyasasya asambhavat. If there is absence of any dosha whatsoever, yasya kasya means whatsoever. If there is absence of any defects whatsoever, then adhyasasya asambhavat. Then since there is impossibility of adhyasa. Means for a mistake to happen, some defects in some form has to be there. Some defect at some level should be there, otherwise adhyasa is not possible. Alright. And therefore what he says, Advaita Siddhau Madhusudana Saraswati Vihi Dosha Janyatvam Brahmasya Lakshanamidi Katidam. He brings Madhusudana Saraswati Advaita Siddhi. Advaita Siddhi is a text, one of the three Brihat Prasthan, one of the Brihat Prasthanatrayam. One is Laghu, generally Prasthanatraya, we say, we understand what? Bhagavad Gita, this Upanishad and Brahma Sutra. That is what is called Prasthanatraya. And that is what is traditionally, that is how it is accepted. So whenever we say Prasthanatraya, we mean this only. But some people, they say that Brihat Prasthanatraya. In Brihat Prasthanatraya, these three texts are there. Advaita Siddhi, Chitsukhi and Khandana Khanda Khadya. These three are called Brihat Prasthanatraya. So ऐसे बोलते भी है, बृहद भी हो गया, मतलब तो बड़ा भी हो गया, छोटा तो हो ही गया था, बड़ा भी हो गया, ऐसे बोलते हैं. जैसे अभी क्या चल रहा है, बोले बृहद चल रहा है. So this is a language. So if you don't know, generally those who have studied only little, they will not know. बृहद भी हो गया, बृहद मतलब क्या हो गया, बिग हो गया, बड़ा उपनिषद पढ़ा, बृहदारण्यक. बृहद का अर्थ हम समझे क्या, बृहदारण्यक नहीं, बृहद प्रस्थानत्रय. Alright, so Advaita Siddhi is one of them. So Advaita Siddhi, in that text by Madhusudana Saraswati, what is said? Dosha Janyatvam Brahmasya Lakshanam. Why? Because this reason. If there is absence of any dosha whatsoever, then adhyasa, Brahma is not possible. Therefore, based on this principle, Advaita Siddhikara Madhusudana Saraswati has given Lakshanam of dosha. What? Dosha Janyatvam Brahmasya Lakshanam. So, being born of dosha is the Lakshanam of the defect. As a Lakshanam of delusion, mistake. Mistake means that which is born of some dosha. Iti kathitam Madhusudana Saraswati Bihi kathitam. Manarthe Bahuvachanam. Saraswati Bihi. Some people say somebody Bahuvachan single कुछ फर्क नहीं है. But जो for whom there is a difference, there is a difference. Madhusudana Saraswati Bihi kathitam. Dosha vina adhyasaha na jayete jayeta iti muloktihi praudivadena. Now this Tippanikara has to give some respect to the Granthakara. Tippanikara means one who is writing footnote. So he has to reconcile that without dosha, adhyasa is not possible. Whereas Granthakara has said what? Dosha na adhyasayetu. Virodh ho gaya. So he said, let us understand this statement in a proper way. He said, dosham vina adhyasaha jayeta. Without dosha also adhyasa can be born. Iti muloktihi. In this manner, the statement of the original text Vichara Sagara. And what is the muloktihi? Doshaha na adhyasayetu. That particular statement, earlier also he had told, यथा सकल दोषा भावे अपि आकाशे नैल्याद्य अध्यासः जायते तथा आत्मनि अपि बन्धाध्यासः दोषं विना एव जायते. That statement, and here also doshah na adhyasetu, is praudhivadena, is by way of praudhivada. And what is praudhivada? He himself explains. He knows that people will not know what is praudhivada. Praudhyartham Vadaha, Praudi Vadaha. The Vadaha means Kathanam, statement. Statement for Praudi. What is Praudi? Swa Vidyatishaya Khyapanartham Praudyartham. So the statement for Khyapanartham, revealing Atishaya, excellence of one's soul knowledge, is Vadaha, statement is called Praudi Vadaha. So Praudi Vada, Vada means statement, the statement for the purpose of revealing the excellence, high degree, Atishaya has got the meaning high degree of one's knowledge, is called Praudi Vadaha. Like some musicians, they will not be following the rules of grammar in a conventional manner. They go beyond grammar. There is a grammar in music, but they will be going for what purpose? Praudi Vadena, to show that this raga can be sung in this manner also. They are not going opposite to the grammar, they are going beyond grammar, and they can do it only when they have practiced with grammar for a long time. To go beyond that, to go beyond the grammar of music, they have to practice the grammar of music for a very long time. And then they understand it. In this area, there is a scope that without contradicting with the grammar of music, we can have this manodharma. They are called manodharma. In music, manodharma means there is the extra product they can have. Similarly here, Praudivadena, the Praudyartham Kathanam Praudivada. It means what? What it means is that sometimes Granthakara will be saying something based on his extra analysis of the subject matter, to show that this statement can be made in this manner also. But it should not be contradicting with the main vision. So when he said doshaha na adhyasa hetuhu, what he means is that all these three doshas, combination of these three doshas is not adhyasa hetu. Even though it has got the tone of saying that no dosha is required for adhyasa, but it should be understood as the combination of these three popular dosha presented by Purvapakshi is not required for adhyasa. Alright, so that is called Praudivada. So Praudivada means the statement based on extraordinary knowledge of certain subject matter. Means they have done a lot of analysis and then they are making this statement. Alright, and therefore it should not be taken in an absolute manner. It should be understood properly. Okay. Now the next footnote is there, and that is in Sankshepa Shariraka, this dosha also is considered to be bandhadhyasa. It is hetu for the bandhadhyasa, and that footnote we will see in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri